6 months ago, my life took a turn I never anticipated. It was a brisk Tuesday morning when I returned from a business trip. My suitcase thudded against the hardwood floor as I entered our home, the same home my wife and I had built together over a decade. The silence that greeted me was different that day, heavier, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. I remember walking through each room, expecting to hear her humming from the kitchen or the sound of water running in the shower. Instead, I found absence. Not just of sound, but of presence. Half the closets were empty. Her favorite books were missing from the shelf. The worn copy of Pride and Prejudice, the sci-fi novels she swore she'd get to. The honeymoon photo we had framed in a shadow box was gone. Even the quirky throw pillow she adored had vanished. Then I saw it, on the kitchen counter, next to the now empty fruit bowl, a folded note. 5 words. I need to find myself. I sat down at the kitchen table, clutching the paper. The words blurred. I blinked, thinking maybe this was a joke, a prelude to some elaborate surprise. But no, this was real. Her absence was a fact. There had been no arguments, no dramatic storming off, no distant behavior to warn me. In fact, just the week before, we had gone out for dinner and talked about our summer plans, hiking in the Rockies, wine tasting in Napa, maybe even trying for a child again. Our conversations had felt normal. Or maybe I had just convinced myself they were. At first, I thought something terrible had happened. An accident, a breakdown. Maybe she was in the hospital or had a panic attack somewhere far from home. I tried her cell. No answer. I left voicemails, texts, even emailed. The hours passed, then a day, then 2. Slowly, the truth crept in like a winter draft under the door. She had left me, intentionally, definitively. Without warning, without a fight, without a goodbye. The shock was paralyzing. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. My thoughts looped like a broken film reel, replaying memories in reverse. Our wedding day, lazy Sunday mornings, the night we signed the papers for our first home. It all felt like fiction now. A story someone else had lived. Then came the phone call. A mutual friend who sounded nervous. She hesitated before telling me what I wasn't prepared to hear. My wife had been planning this for months. Maybe longer. She'd talked about feeling trapped, confined, unsure of her identity. She'd voiced these doubts to her sister, her friends, even, shockingly, to my brother. Everyone seemed to know but me. It wasn't just the abandonment that cut deep. It was the secrecy. I was her husband. Weren't we supposed to be a team? How could I be the last to know? When I finally reached her on the phone, her tone was calm, measured, as if she had rehearsed every word. She said she had been unhappy for years, that she felt like a stranger in her own life. Counseling was out of the question. She said it was already too late. I remember begging. Something I never imagined myself doing. I offered to go to therapy, to take time off work, to do anything. But her mind was made up. The conversation ended with more silence, more void. The following weeks were a descent. I took a leave of absence from work. I couldn't focus, couldn't hold a conversation without my voice breaking. My friends and family, though well-meaning, didn't know what to say. They offered advice, tried to coax me into social gatherings, but I wasn't ready. I needed to fall apart first. The hardest part was coming home each night. The house echoed differently. Her perfume still lingered on the sheets for a while, a cruel ghost. I tried to cook, but even that felt foreign. Every corner of our home reminded me of her, of us. Our shared life had become a museum of memories I didn't ask to curate. Eventually, The fog began to lift. Not in a dramatic epiphany, but in quiet, almost imperceptible shifts. I started by clearing the house. Packing away the things that hurt too much to see. Donating the throw pillows, the books she'd left behind. I turned our guest room into a workspace. I organized the garage. Cleaned out the basement. Somehow, in the act of reclaiming space, I began reclaiming pieces of myself. Then came the hikes. At first, I could barely make it down the trail without breaking down. But nature offered something no person could. Non-judgmental constancy. Trees didn't care about my heartbreak. The wind didn't ask questions. The rhythm of walking, step after step, became meditative, healing. I lost 15 pounds, not from grief anymore, but from choice. I was eating better, moving more, breathing deeply. I started journaling. Each morning, I would sit on the porch with my coffee and write. Not about her, but about me. About what I felt, what I wanted, what I feared. Slowly, I began to see myself not as a man who had been left, but as a man who was becoming. Adopting a dog was a turning point. I found him at the local shelter, a Labrador mix with trembling legs and sad eyes. He'd been abandoned too. We understood each other without needing words. I named him Scout. He followed me everywhere, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone in the house. We'd walk for miles together, side by side in silent understanding. Work welcomed me back in a way I didn't expect. My focus sharpened. I channeled my pain into productivity, and it paid off. I received a promotion, a role I once imagined celebrating with her. This time, I celebrated with Scout. We shared a quiet evening, a long walk, and a new chew toy. Then, yesterday, she texted me. She said she was struggling, that the freedom she had chased felt hollow, that her new relationship had ended. She missed our routines, our Sunday morning coffees, our evening walks with no destination. She wanted to talk. I stared at the message for a long time. Once, it would have lit up something inside me. But now, I felt nothing but a stillness. Not coldness, not anger. Just stillness. I realized I no longer missed her, not really. I missed who I thought she was, who we once were. But that illusion was gone. When we spoke, her voice was shaky. She cried, saying she had made a mistake, that she acted out of fear, not clarity. Maybe she did, but her decision had forced me to grow in ways I never imagined. I had built a life, one that was mine alone, and I liked it. I told her the truth, that I had forgiven her, that I wished her peace, but that we couldn't go back. Not because I hated her, but because I respected myself too much to return to a place where I was never seen. Our call ended with quiet understanding. I think she knew I meant it. This story, though born in heartbreak, is not about the ending of a marriage. It's about the beginning of something new. About rediscovery. About the strength that surfaces when you think you've lost everything. If you're reading this and going through something similar, know that healing doesn't come in a straight line. Some days will be dark. Some mornings, you'll wake up reaching for someone who's no longer there. But with time, patience, and effort, you'll find something remarkable, you, and the version of you that emerges from that darkness. They're worth knowing. They're worth fighting for. I wouldn't trade that rebirth for anything.